Chok Rayujam is a brave warrior who literally slayed 300 assassins alone while being cornered at the edge of a cliff. The guy wreaked havoc for 4 straight days, continuously piling up the dead bodies of anyone who dared to come closer to his mistress, whom he's been protecting with his life. Eventually, after clearing wave after wave of assassins, Rayujam faced the final boss and was bested. But instead of dying alone, he dragged his final enemy along with him, jumping off the cliff. The two fighters exchanged final words before falling into the icy cold waters below. 900 years have passed since then, and the world has made a huge leap in technological advancements. Welcome to the 21st century. On a bridge over a river, there's a schoolgirl standing at the edge with nothing to support her weight. She could fall any moment if she loses her balance, and people behind her assume she's trying to kill herself. But, contrary to what they think, she's just standing there for the heck of it. Then, she notices something eye-catching. Below the bridge, a giant iceberg pops up out of nowhere. What makes it shocking is that the iceberg contains the preserved body of the ancient hero who fell off the cliff while carrying out his duty. When the authorities hear about it, Rayujam is brought to a facility where they make sure he's strapped down tightly to prevent any movement. Everyone's curious to learn which era this handsome fella belongs to. One guess is that he might be from the Goryeo dynasty. Young Sang-young, the director of the Secret Intelligence DLS Research, who works directly under the president, oversees the case. Seeing the perfectly preserved body, he's sure that this ancient person can help humanity take a leap into preserving the bodies through cryogenic methods. The assistant of Sang-young isn't sure if restraining the guy this much is actually necessary. He fears that once this ancient dude wakes up, he won't appreciate being restrained. But the director isn't taking any chances. After all, this man's body can't be compared to that of modern humans. It's so different he can hardly be classified as the same species. Plus, every analysis so far has subverted their expectations, and Sang-young is pretty darn sure there are more surprises to come. The assistant, however, doesn't mean to seem complacent. What he's trying to say is that this guy, a gift sent by their ancestors to future generations, shouldn't be treated so harshly. Still, Sang-young isn't ready to let him go unless they're 100% sure he's not some kind of disaster waiting to happen. Of course, the assistant finds Sang-young's concerns laughable. But it seems like this idiot's about to learn the hard way that you should never ignore the advice of your seniors. That ancient guy literally tears through all the restraints like they're nothing more than toilet paper. Before we witness the disaster, let's take a look at the bustling city. On the road, there's a jerk and his gold-digger girlfriend cruising in his sports car. This dude is speeding down the highway like he owns the road. But soon enough, this poor bastard is overtaken by a mere ancient guy who's just woken from a long slumber. The guy is literally running at 80 kilometers per hour. He's making that red Lamborghini look like a donkey cart with his insane speed. Not only can he outrun sports cars, but he can also make sharp turns without slowing down, causing massive crashes among the traffic. All the Gen Z guys pull out their cameras and start recording this unprecedented scene they're witnessing. Now let's see things from Rayujam's perspective. He's having a hard time believing what he's seeing. He's running around in a place he's never been before. It's so bizarre and surreal that he's sure this can't be a dream. The last thing he remembers is trying to protect his mistress from those assassins. Suddenly, he comes across police cars blocking his path, finally bringing him to a halt. The police officers immediately try to take control of the situation under orders from higher-ups. They surround Rayujam, who's standing still, unusually lost in his thoughts. He clearly remembers falling into the waterfall with his arch-nemesis, Okon. Then, an officer sneaks up on him, insisting that he doesn't resist arrest, especially since doing so will only make things harder for him. But Rayujam's mind is too occupied to pay attention to the officer's words. As far as he remembers, he died back then. But if he isn't dead, and seeing all this chaos around him, the only thing that crosses his mind is that he's probably under the influence of an illusion cast by Okon's follower, Yoon Eun-hye, who specializes in messing with people's minds. With that in mind, he brushes the officers off with his bare hands, sending them flying. He desperately wants to wake up from this illusion. One of the officers shoots a taser at him, but Rayujam just grabs the electrical needles with his bare fingers. Well, the concept of lightning isn't new to him. As he's distracted, he gets hit with a barrage of needles, causing his muscles to react to the electricity instinctively. The officers think they've overwhelmed this ancient bitch with their tasers. Little do they know, Rayujam simply grabs the wires, jerks them so hard that the officers lose their grips on the taser guns. Then, he swings the guns back at the soldiers, sending them scattering like bowling pins. The general public is in utter awe. After all, seeing the police getting their asses handed to them by a guy who isn't even moving from his spot is absolutely insane. Chok Rayujam is literally toying with these guys like they're nothing more than trash bags. His main goal is to find the key in this world that will help him break the illusion he's currently trapped in. More and more police arrive, but Rayujam is so powerful that he crushes the ground beneath him with sheer force, sending all the cars flying. All these guys are nothing more than an annoyance to him, so to avoid the trouble, he simply leaps high into the air, like Hulk, and jumps away. This display of immense strength leaves the soldiers wondering if this guy is even human. We then cut to Jong Min-woo, the service director of the National Intelligence. He's on the phone, fuming at the lack of results from his personnel. By now, he's sure that the special forces won't be able to do jack shit in this case, let alone the police officers. The guy on the other end of the phone is Jong Sang-yong, the team leader of this operation. We saw him at the facility before. After witnessing how this ancient dude broke through the restraints and wreaked havoc, he agrees with the director. Director suddenly calms down when his senior, sitting in the back seat, takes full responsibility for everything happening, admitting that it's his fault. He's confident there's nothing to worry about. After all, they're dealing with an ancient dude who's supposedly powerless against modern weaponry. As he says this, the main highway is packed with military vehicles, tanks, military Hummers, even helicopters filling the sky. Seriously, with all this military power, they're treating our guy like a Godzilla-level threat. Anyway, Chok Rayujam stands at the top of a building, completely surrounded. Even the rooftop is swarming with armed police forces. Now that these guys are challenging him, he's ready to show them what he is made of. But before initiating the fight, he grabs a broomstick as his weapon of choice. Yeah, he's made up his mind. He's gonna give these guys a run for their money with nothing but a broomstick. One of the soldiers shoots a bullet right near his feet, thinking it'll intimidate him. This officer's sure that an ancient martial artist like him won't be able to go up against a gun. But it looks like Chok Rayujam is about to prove him utterly wrong. Before the showdown can start, and we witness the chaos that follows, the president himself decides to show up and meet the guy. Once the president steps onto the roof, his concerned security detail warns him to keep his distance. As the representative of the country, Kang Ji-kan has personally come to meet this relic of the past. He tells the officers to lower their guns. Of course, being the ancient guy he is, Chok Rayujam catches on that the president likely has the standing of a king. First, Ji-kan expresses his apologies from the bottom of his heart for how they've treated their guest from the past. Since Chok Rayujam isn't aware of his surroundings, the president briefs him about how this current time is the future, and the place is South Korea. But before going any further, the president extends his hand for a handshake. He wants to escort Chok Rayujam to a better place before they talk more. As the president holds out his hand, Chok Rayujam just stands there, unmoving. Every officer watches carefully, trying to predict his next move. But Chok Rayujam subverts everyone's expectations when he swings his stick, aiming to slice the president's head off. As far as the ancient guy is concerned, the president might be the key to breaking out of this illusion. The officers immediately go bonkers, locking their aim on his head. Miraculously, the president is still alive and orders everyone to cease fire. Meanwhile, Chok Rayujam is convinced that it's not Yoon Eun he's doing. You see, she was the greatest illusionist in Goryeo, so there's no way she'd create an illusion where his enemy doesn't suffer. Reflecting on those fights, Chok Rayujam knows that what he felt during his encounters with the officers didn't seem like an illusion. So, with everything in mind, the only conclusion he can draw is that this place is real. The scene cuts to the president's safe house, where a lavish spread of food is served to Chok Rayujam. But before indulging in meaningless pleasures, Bro wants to confirm where he is. The president claims it's a secret base, a designated place for meetings like this. He insists his ancient guest indulge himself, as all the food has been prepared according to the current era's traditions and tastes. Since Chok Rayujam isn't taking the initiative to dig in first, the president takes it up on him and takes the first bite. While eating, he asks if Chok Rayujam still has any doubts that he isn't in the future. Of course, Chok Rayujam is smart enough to figure that out. By now, he is pretty darn sure that he is indeed in the future. The president is glad to hear that he understands. Now, it shouldn't be hard for him to understand that the reason he's able to move after being frozen for so long is due to modern medical technology, something that wasn't possible back in his time. Chok Rayujam recalls the time before he died. The poison in his body was already spreading, and he was further pierced by his arch-nemesis. Since he's the only one left here, it means all his enemies have already fallen. The president continues his rant. While he's not sure if Chok Rayujam will be willing to accept the terms, the president wants to be generous enough to offer him support to help him adapt to this place. But in return, he wants Chok Rayujam's cooperation. It's nothing too demanding, just a simple request. To clarify, the president gestures to the director of national intelligence, and the guys quickly turn on the TV. A news reporter reports the sighting of the super strong guy. Not only is he matching the speed of cars, but he was even seen flying around. The common people have already started to connect the dots, suspecting the guy they saw flying around in the city is the same person who was found in the Han River Glacier. There are rumors spreading that the person causing chaos in the city is this same individual, and people are even calling him a superhuman. Then, the reporter announces the latest news. It was all part of a movie production, and the movie director wanted the highest realism possible. Basically, the government has staged the entire news report to convince the public that the bizarre sightings were just a performance. They can't afford to let the truth get out. People aren't ready to know about a being like Chok Rayujam. After all, he's a frozen person, capable of surviving through centuries. If they experiment and study this situation, the president believes it could lead to incredible advancements. Many countries have tried to achieve this before, but so far, they've only failed because they lacked the crucial thawing technology. But now, Chok Rayujam has appeared as their hope. So the president asks Chok Rayujam to cooperate with them for the sake of the country and future generations. But Chok Rayujam flatly says no, without a hint of hesitation. Of course, the president is left speechless, while Chok Rayujam proceeds toward the exit. As far as Chok Rayujam is concerned, it's bold of the president to assume he has any intention of living in this era. Since words aren't enough to convince this ancient warrior, the president decides to go with Plan B. The officers quickly line up their needle guns, aiming at Chok Rayujam, and begin bombarding him with darts. The darts strike his back precisely, but he doesn't even twitch a muscle. While Chok Rayujam may have stopped taser guns before, the director is sure this guy can't withstand tranquilizers strong enough to knock out an elephant. Well, the director may be right, but Chok Rayujam doesn't even let the darts pierce his skin. A thick layer of aura surrounds his body, preventing the needles from touching him. His inner aura accumulates in his hands, and in an instant, he sends the officers flying in all directions, as if they were nothing more than lightweight fuck dolls. This little display of power serves as a reminder to this persistent president not to pull this stunt again. Despite this, the president still isn't willing to let Chok Rayujam walk away that easily. Next up, enter a group of officers armed with electrical batons, surrounding Chok Rayujam. Without hesitation, they charge at him, but Chok Rayujam moves so fast that the officer attacking him misses completely. The other officers close in, but one guy thinks he's finally got Chok Rayujam zapped with his baton. But before the baton can electrify him, Chok Rayujam vanishes in a blur just like an afterimage. He's moving so fast that he's leaving a trail of silhouettes behind him. At one point, the foolish officers realize they're no match for this guy. He didn't even attack, despite being up against armed opponents. The only thing his opponents can do is watch as he walks away unscathed. The president, after receiving the news of their failure, is having a hard time believing they lost to a single man. By now, he's sure they can't capture him by force. So the only option left is to find alternative methods. After all, Chok Rayujam is no ordinary being, and a large-scale search will likely be necessary. Suddenly, a man rushes in to report urgent news. They've found the location of the guy they've been looking for. While they're not sure of the reason, he's at a very easy-to-spot place, standing on the rooftop of the tallest building. It looks like Chok Rayujam is about to jump off this high-rise to claim his own life. You see, this world offers nothing to him. His life is meaningless, as he has no purpose to stay alive. The only reason he lived was to protect his mistress from enemies. But now that there's no mistress to protect and no enemies to fight, there's no reason for him to exist. He wishes he had died when he fell off the cliff all those years ago. As he begins to descend down, something catches his eye. A face on a billboard grabs his attention instantly. It turns out, the face on the billboard looks exactly like Okon, his final enemy, someone he was supposed to take down. His eyes widened in shock as his memory flashed back to the time he faced off against Okon, a villain who placed his family members in an illusion to kill each other off brutally before his eyes. Manhwa and Okon worked together to fully commence the era of destruction upon Goryeo as everything went up in flames. The bodyguard boasted a determined glare against his nemesis, Okon, who enjoyed torturing the swordsman and promised that he would flatten the world. Okon is single-handedly responsible for everything. Even though our boy was confident that he'd killed the guy in their final battle, it turns out the bastard is still alive in the future. This changes Rayujam's perspective on things. The existence of his enemy in return gives his life a meaning, a purpose. Extending his hands pointed towards the ground, the man exerts so much pressure that he breaks the fall and plants his feet on the surface. There's a lot he didn't know about, and he was determined to find out. The scene cuts to President Jikun losing his marbles after hearing that our boy jumped from the tallest building he could find. But the fact that his body is nowhere to be found is even more frightening than the first news he received. Luckily, they ran into a witness who ran into the guy, and according to his testimony, he simply asked about Yeonwoo's information. In this world, Yoo Yeonwoo is an important figure. He is the pride of Korea, a world-class movie star renowned all over the world for his prodigious talent from a young age. He's got good eyes on him from other continents of the world, and with the looks of a model, he's got irresistible charm in his personality. Thanks to his existence alone, his company's stock value is on a rise, and because he's the most famous star of Korea, he's raised the country's status in global standings. In other words, the dude was the definition of a great man, which is unbecoming of the description that Rayujam was waiting to hear. It's as if he feels out of place even more, now that Okon's identity appears to be the opposite of the man he is supposed to be. Given the information, Rayujam suspects that there are two possibilities. Number one, this model either resembles Okon, and number two, the guy is actually him while gaslighting the entire world. And for some interesting reason, Rayujam is desperately hoping that it's the second possibility. Feeling the urge to meet him, he requests the kid to take him to Yeonwoo, which is obviously an insane request to a normal kid who obviously can't contact a celebrity like that. Even the kid is out here thinking if he's found some kind of dumbass for asking that question. To the kid's horror, however, Rayujam is not in the mood to fudge around. The dude exerts so much pressure that it shatters the glass of every screen. Rayujam demands an answer from the kid, desiring a way to find Yeonwoo. The kid thinks he's about to get killed if he doesn't give him an answer, so he finally confesses hearing the model travel overseas a few years ago. Rayujam realizes that this means his target has already crossed to a different country. Let's pay a visit to the land of freedom, America. Here, the model is having a nice lunch when suddenly he gets whacked in the damn face by buff Kanye West over here. Speaking gibberish in English, the American man demands he leave the place. Turns out that this is supposed to be just a movie scene that they're directing, so it's all chill. The director is a bit annoyed that Yeonwoo hasn't been in his element lately, and it's taking him longer to adapt to scenes. To make up for the fact, the confident model, with his already swelled up face, requests the American to hit him on the other side too. The scene is scheduled to be redone when suddenly, the chandelier unpredictably breaks and topples down. Buff Kanye won't be able to release another album if it hits him, but luckily the Korean model swoops in to save his life in a critical moment. The staff immediately rushed in to check on their condition. They weren't expecting something like this to happen. Thankfully, they're both safe, and no one got hurt. Well, except for Yeonwoo, who injured his arm for the most part. At the hospital, they're shocked to find that Yeonwoo wrecked his body just to save the other guy. Also, for his courageous act, he received a ton of gifts from everyone to speed up on his recovery. Yeonwoo thinks it's a good idea to share these gifts with the generous hospital staff members instead. He also apologizes for messing up the film schedule thanks to his condition just now, but they're just happy he didn't get injured too much. Also, it comes to Yeonwoo's attention that filming isn't an important thing right now, especially when he hears shocking news. Back at the Blue House, President Okon bids farewell to everyone, only to find our boy waiting for him, having bypassed top-tier security levels with ease. Okon recalls being terrified yesterday, as only 9 hours ago, our boy showed up to his office like Batman. He came to accept the offer of cooperation that he rejected earlier. Only this time he's got one condition paired alongside it. Handing him a photo of Yeonwoo, he requests the president to help him find someone reliable, who can easily meet him in the same room as Yeonwoo. Okon's ready for anything as long as he promises full cooperation in return. Rayujam observes that the gesture of shaking hands out of trust didn't exist back in his era, but he shakes his hand anyway. Back to the present, Okon learns that Rayujam urgently wants to see Yeonwoo, but it won't be easy since they're so far away from him. The scene cuts to the part where they actually reach Yeonwoo's place of stay. The model is shocked to meet the president and the person he's brought alongside him. Yeonwoo introduces himself in kind, while Rayujam is high on guard, because it's time to see whether this guy is truly Okon or not. Okon learns that the model sprained his arm recently from an injury. Rayujam is way more willing to meet him and extends a hand. The celebrity is initially shocked to find the same guy from the news up here in front of his eyes. They shake hands properly while Okon suggests they sit somewhere comfortable. But that's not the important part. The important part is that our boy is practically crushing Yeonwoo's hand with his insanely strong grip. But to his utter shock, this guy isn't even leaking a trace of chi from his body, appearing like an ordinary human. Disappointed, Rayujam apologizes for his intrusion. Okon tells the two to get comfortable while he goes away to tend to the bathroom. Though he's going away as an excuse, he's already set his men on standby in case some shit goes down. The room is cleared until only 2 of the men remain sharing a table across from each other. Though he's enjoying his tea, Rayujam is severely depressed, realizing that this guy only resembles Okon's facial features. In the end, it seems like he's alone in this world, until Yeonwoo announces Rayujam's name, getting up close to whisper his shock of seeing him alive. To Yeonwoo's surprise, the bodyguard who he presumed to be dead turned out to be alive. Rayujam is so ready to throw hands at this point that he unleashes a violent aura to warn Yeonwoo, questioning if this was all a game to the bastard. In the end, Yeonwoo is just a false identity for the man underneath. It's always been Okon, which leads to only one explanation. And it's that Okon must have obtained some kind of skill allowing him to mask his Kai levels in the open. Rayujam's concerned just how early this guy returned to the future before him. Okon tells him right away that killing him here would be meaningless, so he shouldn't release his murderous intent out in the open. He judges that Rayujam is only just adapting to this world, while Okon is already a part of it and has blended with it. Rayujam asks him direct questions about how he came to the future, but the clever Okon maintains his secrets. Getting to his one and only concern, Rayujam questions the one person he truly cares about. He wants to know if the girl he was assigned to guard also came to the future like them. But Okon's in the mood to mess around with our boy's feelings, so he gives him a half-assed answer like it's supposed to be a riddle. Done with his bullshit, our boy literally exerts so much pressure against the table that it knocks Okon and his seat all the way back into the world. From the looks of it, Okion's unwilling to cooperate, so Ryugam has decided he'll find his answers on his own. He stares down at Okion, who is emerging from the rubble, reminiscing and questioning if this was the reality they once shared another life in. However, Okion's grown really confident from that last attack from his opponent. It's as if he can sense that Ryugam hasn't yet fully regained his strength. Before their little dance begins, Okion stops him to alert Ryugam about the special barrier of illusion that he's placed in. With this in place, the rest of the world won't see them recklessly fighting each other, and instead, it will appear as if they were catching up like old friends. It's funny, but bro really cares about his reputation to keep that up, even as a villain. Okion dashes right in, but our boy immediately points out something shocking. He wasn't facing Okion at all. Rujam crushes a pine cone in his hand and states that he's going to find out the truth for himself. He remarks that despite having hidden his ki in his normal state, this guy actually leaked some of his ki while defending himself, which revealed to Ryugam that he wasn't Okion at all. The woman harboring the disguise of Yanwu suddenly reverts back to her original state, clearly impressed that he was able to piece together the truth with one encounter. Do you guys recall Yunun Hai, the chick that was nearly responsible for making our boy end the president's life earlier? Yeah, meet Itachi's sister over here. The perspective goes back to the final day of the rebellion, where he clearly recalls Unhai falling to her death after being sliced open. He was confident that it was all over for her, so this is just strange. Unhai laughs at his confusion, and reveals that the real Okion is actually quite an important figure in this world. She was taking on his identity as Yanwu because her boss is busy managing other meetings for his plans. And in today's report, she's more than happy to tell Okion of Ryujiam's return. Also, gauging his powers from earlier, she thinks she can easily beat Ryujiam here, which is why Itachi's sister goes for a shadow clone jutsu to gang up on our boy. But she forgot who she was dealing with, because he easily takes down one of the clones with ease. He's done hearing her run her mouth. Bro basically told her to shut the fudge up. Of course, since Ryujiam has been expelling so much ki from his body having only recently awakened, it's going to take a toll on him. And that assumption alone became Unhai's greatest failure, because our boy reminded her that he was built differently. With a single attack, he took care of all of her clones. She was on the ground, helpless to face him. Ryujam clearly remembers slaying the Psycho Thought that day. She fell off a cliff with an injury that shouldn't be easy to heal, so it's hard to believe she got this far. Unhai reveals that she too believed that she would die that same day. But upon opening her eyes, reality became different for her. She was in the future, looking clueless in front of a man wearing a nice suit with ashy hair. He was Okion, and he was already helping her adjust in this new world. This means that Okion was the first to wake up among them, and since he is her superior, Unhai doesn't want to give up until the end. She nearly catches Ryugiam's eye with her sharp stab, but our boy counters her just in time, pushing her away with a heavy blow. Unhai is practically unable to continue the fight, while Ryugiam walks to her, reminding her of how pitiful she looks when she says that Okion actually saved her life. Unhai had only been here for a month, but that's not what Ryugiam is concerned about. He wants to know when her body initiated the process of decaying. She doesn't know where he's going with this, so he rips her shirt off, revealing rotted flesh underneath. Ryujam adds that Okion never actually saved her at all. He merely used a spell to keep her alive for a while, until she eventually meets her doom after being no longer of use. Unhai goes batshit crazy in response, roaring at him for saying such ridiculous things. Ryujam understands that she's never heard of this technique, but in his eyes, the verdict is clear. She's just a tool in Okion's plans. Also, he entertains her by thinking about why he's making her do all of this trivial work. It's because her worth isn't beyond that in Okion's eyes. Yeah, this is ending up a nightmare for Unhai, who is traumatized to realize she's going to be 6 feet under the ground soon. However, there is a way out, a way that Ryujiam only knows. He will have to inject a chi that is different from the chi that is spoiling her body, and he shows her how it's done by infusing some of his own chi to revert the infection. This is confirmed to Unhai that her master was planning to kill her off quietly. Ryujam concludes that either he or Okion can use the infusion technique, so she's going to have to make a choice, to take a side. Realizing that it's come to this, Unhai remarks that she wants to live and asks for an order from Ryugiam. Okay, I definitely thought she would end up dead like how it goes for most stories, but this is a really nice change. Ryugiam reveals that her objective is to act like a double agent from now on. In the next scene, Yanwu comes crashing out of the door, begging to be saved from the Ryujiam. He alerts the president and urges that they leave immediately, much to their confusion. The president is frightened at the notice of a dangerous person inside the room and wonders what the hell just happened. Going inside, they discover Ryujiam, who has completely trashed the entire place. He apologizes for making a mess and offers compensation in whatever way he can. His excuse? It's that he was testing things out. The president isn't worried about that immediately, and instead asks if Ryugiam is doing okay in his mental state. As for Yanwu, they're concerned about him too. wondering if he got hurt somewhere. In fact, Eun-hye is kind of pissed to find our boy appearing so unstable like that, especially when it's unusual for him to be this way. Bro's acting skills can get him an Oscar apparently. Anyway, he wants to have a real conversation with Eun-hye soon, discussing their goals regarding Okon. The perspective shifts back to the past, where the young swordsman was told of his one and only duty. He was supposed to draw his weapon to protect the important people around him. Bodyguards were meant to protect them with their lives, and he was often reminded that his life didn't matter nearly as much as the person he was assigned to protect. At the same time, since bodyguards lived to protect someone else, they were unusually strong-willed and undetermined to die. Rayujam wakes up in the lab, where the researchers are on red alert, finding his condition suddenly appearing more unstable than ever before. He tells them he's okay, but he wants to know how long the research will go on for. The president tells him to take it easy, as they can always continue another time. You know, the president is really starting to grow on me, because he's giving our boy the respect he deserves instead of treating him like a slave. Rayujam prefers continuing the research another time because he's got to uphold an important promise to someone. Right in the next scene, the model-like Eun-hye sees Rayujam, stating that he arrived later than she anticipated. She can tell that someone is following him, but it's okay, since it's only one of the president's watchmen. They decide to discuss their plans over food, but Eun-hye is a bit shocked that he's so comfortable ordering so many drinks at her expense. Bro tells her to keep quiet because he's the one supposed to carry out the questioning here. And then he starts off by covering Okyun's backstory, who basically outsmarted him in their final encounter. Okon is a member of the family that he was assigned to protect. It was long believed that Okon met his death in an incident, but no one could have assumed that he faked his death in order to plan a rebellion. Eun-hye shares that he's a man of many secrets, while she just followed his orders without question. Since she can't answer that question well, Rayujam asks if there's anyone else from the past that came to the future. To her knowledge, Eun-hye, Okon, and Rayujam are the only ones. Out of her own curiosity, she went neck deep into finding records of anyone else, but ended up finding nothing. Rayujam learns that Okon is actually overseas at the moment, while Eun-hye is a bit put off that he's about to go meet him in the condition he's in. The fact of the matter is, Okon has grown considerably stronger from the past. Our boy appears uninterested in her yapping and stops her, but it's actually because he sees something that makes his eyes widen in extreme shock. The real Yeonwoo, or should I say the real Okon, is coincidentally staring at the two of them from outside the restaurant. A smile forms on his face, with Okon realizing that the world has gotten more interesting from this revelation. Rayujam gets up, calling their meeting fruitless and pathetic. He wants to add more conditions to her role. Now that he's seen the guy in person, something important reawakened inside Rayujam. He had been so blinded by his feelings of exacting revenge that he completely brushed away the one thing that mattered to him the most. Rayujam tells her that he strongly believes in the girl's survival, the one he was assigned to protect. Even though this is quite a ridiculous statement from Eun-hye's point of view, who already looked for documents. Rayujam's master's words ring loud and clear inside his mind. His one and only duty is to protect the one that was assigned to him, and following that iron rule, he's going to locate his lady first. Eun-hye reminds him that it won't be easy to look for her, as she doesn't even recall her face. But our boy is either a simp or a goddamn machine with the way he picks up a pencil and starts sketching her face out to its finest details. Having served her for life, this should be easy for him. Until this fucking goofball reveals the drawing and plot twist. This shit isn't Picasso's work at all. The scene cuts to Choi Seun. Her friend is a bit annoyed that she left without her. Also, she's the same girl from the beginning of the story who wanted to end her life. Aside from that, Seun's background is that she's basically a hit in her school. A model with a fan club full of weirdos and nerds shooting out of their league thinking they're gonna hit it like LeBron. And because of those showerless creeps, Seun's friend is a bit worried about her. Her friend is at the same time jealous of Seun's massive attention spark in her school. While they're casually talking, Rayujam and Eun-hye locate the two young girls from a distance. Eun-hye is actually pretty stumped by the smartphone technology, remarking how it's an incredible sea of information. What a great time to be alive. Back to the story. Rayujam is really glad they're making solid progress here, having initially assumed it would have taken him up to a year to get to this point. He tells Eun-hye to be quiet because they're here to observe her, when suddenly a bunch of creeps gang up on the two young girls. These PDF files looking like skin crawlers over here are trying to get Seun's attention, even demanding a hug from her out of their obsession. But with the way they're approaching the two girls, Seun's face is struck with horror as the two ugly scumbags act like she owes them a favor for being her fans. Rayujam and Eun-hye are watching from a distance, realizing they should intervene soon. And now for a lore drop on his lady. Dandelion is the first word that comes to his mind when describing her innocence. A petite and innocent girl who wept relentlessly, despite belonging from a rich family. Every time she gets sick, her condition is beyond comparison. She was the definition of someone who needed to rely on someone else for a safe existence. Rayujam leaps in right as ugly King Kong over here is trying to hug Seun. Eun-hye bats an eye on the Seun's friend, and in case you guys were somehow thinking that Seun was Ryugeum's lady, you are wrong. It's her friend, and she wasn't weak, not in her past life and not even now. She was his master. Rujam walks up to her and she slowly approaches him. Our boy apologizes for being so late to save her, and even offers her his own jacket to protect against the cold. With this meeting alone, Ryugeum is dead confident in the person in front of him. But to his utter shock, the chick bolts right in, stinging him with a powerful uppercut in the abdomen. Ryujam clearly wasn't expecting that, and neither was I. This chick's not a damsel in distress, she's a weapon. With a smile on her face, she shares that it's been a while since they last met each other. Turns out the chick mistook him for being a fan of hers. My dude is devastated realizing that she doesn't even remember him at all. She doesn't even share the same name as her. The girl doesn't get what's the issue, and asks if he's Seun's fan instead. Ryujam appears visibly distraught, realizing that it's not just the matter of memories but a matter of her demeanor as well. He was speaking to an entirely different person now. The kid lowers her head in embarrassment, realizing that she punched him for no reason. Some dudes from class come out of nowhere to protect Seun and her friend, thinking that our boy was trying to harass them or something. But at this moment, Ryugeum doesn't care about anything at all. All he knows is the grim reality that this child is different from his master. They leave him be and go away with Seun. But the girl appears in a pensive state, seeing the man stand on his own with a sorrowful expression. From this one interaction, she can tell that he's someone who has lived a terrible life. In the next scene, or the next morning, Ryugeum and his trusty sidekick Eun-hye arrive at the tomb where his lady is supposedly buried. Eun-hye finds it a bit unremarkable but thinks it's due to the passage of time. They confirm the information by meeting with the top historian under the president's command. Having confirmed it from multiple sources, they discover that Ryugeum's lady passed on the day of the rebellion. Her final belongings are kept sacred in the tomb. Eun-hye appears okay, but Ryugeum is extremely distraught, so much so that he punches the ground to vent his frustration. The final scene replays in his mind over and over again. Okon inevitably bested him by separating the bodyguard from his one and only goal. Unfortunately, he broke the rules of his job and failed his ultimate purpose in life. In front of her tomb, he finds himself despairing at the thought of failing her expectations. I genuinely feel bad for him. It's like doing something with such devotion for decades of your life, and realizing your efforts didn't matter at all. Now that they'd confirmed her death, they turned their attention to the child from before, the one who shared a similar face to his master. Back to the scene of the school, the girl finds herself surprised that she's the only employee left. Her drunkard boss is lazing around. Bro looks like an even more depressed version of Nanami. Shiryok is such a lazy jackass that he wants her to make him a bowl of ramyeon as part of her job, while the girl is pissed that he's making her do such insulting tasks when she's supposed to go big and famous one day. Shiryok finds her annoying enough to get up and cook for himself. The girl's interview is playing on TV, while Shiryok tells her to be more patient for a little while longer. Shiryok receives a sudden phone call, only to find himself excited. Ending the call, he shares the good news with Min Deule, telling her that he's finally secured a drama meeting with an amazing production company. Duel's eyes lit up with happiness, realizing that she's about to approach the opportunity of a lifetime here. Since they're invited for the meeting, Duel decides to go, but she's put off by the meeting location as it's unsuited for a young girl like her. However, she chalks it off as just a company issue. The interviewees call her over, requesting the girl to take the drink, much to her shock. She reminds them that she's a minor, so that won't be possible. The atmosphere of the place does not feel like an interview at all. It is unprofessional, and these two drunkards are acting like nutcases. They tell her to get comfortable as this is just an introductory meeting, rather than an official one. At first she thinks it's fine, but the moment one of the creepy bastards messes with her body, she realizes this is the last place on Earth she is supposed to be. A horrifying realization sets in for the young girl, who realizes what kind of direction this is going. She takes control of the situation and gets up, stating that she isn't about that kind of life even for a price of a building. But that didn't matter anymore, as only moments afterwards, she fell to the ground as a victim to the drug that was mixed in the water. With her body immobilized on the ground, she realizes they fooled her by spiking the water too. As for Shiryok, he's been so depressed that he became desperate. They think he's probably smiling reading the script right now. With the girl knocked out, one of the guys suggests that they take advantage of the girl's dreams to help better their own goals. Receiving a phone call from their leader, they report that they're making smooth progress so far. Back at President Jikun's place, our boy looks at the clear moon, remarking that he's only got one thing left in his life, and that is vengeance. He fully intends to destroy everything Okon has built up in his life, tearing it all down until he makes sure both of them stay dead for good this time. Eun-hye surprises him with her late-night visit, and also, we come to learn that he's been supplying her with his chi daily. And I definitely don't mean the birds and the bees that you guys are thinking about. She's come to inform him about some interesting news, though it's not regarding Okon. but the girl who appeared just like his lady. Having sparked an interest in Dula, Eunhye began an official investigation tracing back any links to her. She shockingly reveals that just like Ryujam's lady, this girl also belongs to the Min family, and that means she's a direct descendant of the person he failed to protect. Having tailed her around for a while, Eunhye learned that she's currently in a bad situation and needs help. Even after what she said, Ryujam doesn't give a flying fuck about a descendant. He goes back inside, showcasing no interest at all, not in someone who wasn't even his own master. Eunhye is a bit annoyed by his reaction, even though she went through the trouble of tracking the girl down meticulously. Upon receiving a sudden phone call, she realizes she must hurry. Inside, she feels as if Ryujam should simply abandon the girl if he finds her boring. Sitting in silence, the depressed man recalls seeing a memory of the one he cherished the most. She gave him many different reactions, until the day of the rebellion came. Sensing that his lady will be threatened, he told her to evacuate safely. But she asked him a final favor, requesting that whenever she looked back at him, he should be there to support her. That visage compared to Dula slices inside his mind. Too many thoughts are confusing the young man, who has fully convinced himself that the girl isn't his master. Dul has nothing to do with him, so why should he care? Also, he thinks that there must be someone out there who is already trying to protect her. Let's go back and visit Nanami again, who has received Baeksu as a new hiring recruit to apply for the position of manager. To Baeksu's shock, he immediately becomes manager on the first day without even an interview. After all, this guy doesn't really care about the fact that Baeksu is a newbie. With that, he bids the guy farewell, recalling that after Duel, he's the only employee here. He's got a surprise ready for her, and wonders how the meeting went for her. Receiving a call from his boss, the white-haired dude is pissed as hell. In the few moments he was away to the bathroom, shit went down and the target escaped. His idiot underling tried touching her body and ended up getting his shit rocked for it. And now, since the victim has escaped, they're gonna be under heavy suspicion by the police if the matter is reported. However, the bowl cut over here thinks that the girl shouldn't have gone far, considering she is still under the effects of drugs. And their suspicions are correct. Dul is barely able to walk, assisting herself against the wall to walk. Unfortunately, she lost her phone back in the room, otherwise she could have phoned the police. The poor girl can't even perceive the hallway, while the men quickly chase after her to catch her. Begging for her legs to move, she keeps on going, knowing that it's her only chance to get out alive. The moment her hand reaches the door handle, she is flung to the back as the men catch up to her. Bowl cut over here wants to hurt her, but she's already looking depressed. They're a bit shocked by her insane mental fortitude for having endured for this long. No longer caring about what happened, they decide to take her back. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking. Bowl cut can clearly sense it, until the entire building begins to shake. Realizing that it's a strong earthquake, the girl senses an opportunity. The lights are out and they can't see anything. To her surprise, the door is also open, because our boy has already made his way inside. Back at the president's residence, he received a note from Eunhye, still not knowing why he made the effort of coming all the way here to save the girl's life. In reality, he could have always ignored her, so he doesn't know why he's here. Without complicating the answer too much, Ryujam accepts that he wanted to do a good deed. The menacing man demands them to let go of the girl immediately. Terrified, the white-haired dude finds himself in shock, not knowing where this guy came from. Also, the ground is still shaking underneath them, as Ryujam casually flings his body away, knocking it into multiple surfaces before it flops to the ground. Next up is Bowlcut's turn, who is probably about to piss his pants in shock. Ryujam, with a threatening glare, demands that he let go, and unknown to himself, he just doesn't understand why he feels so angry. Bowlcut runs the heck away after seeing another human before his eyes get treated like a damn training dummy. He's so afraid that he runs all the way to his car and tries driving away, only to get stopped by Ryujam, who adds that he never told the scumbag to leave. Bowlcut drags himself out of the car, while Ryujam questions what they did to the girl to make her unconscious. So he wonders if he should kill him if he's not getting any answers. Asking one final time as he shoves the car away with sheer aura, he questions if they poisoned her. And if so, Ryujam wants an immediate antidote. Bowlcut tries to explain that the girl is simply drugged and will wake up soon. But this man isn't looking for cheap answers as he makes a sandwich out of the dude's hand. Ryujam gives him a bone-chilling warning, threatening to break his neck if he finds out that he's lying. Bowlcut doesn't even know what's going on as numerous men suited up like government agents come to defuse the situation. Turns out it's a security team and they tell the kid to run away. Ryujam tends to the girl's condition, but the emergency team's leader has a different plan in mind and wants to assume custody over the child. They don't even introduce themselves to Ryujam and simply order him to hand over the girl or else they'll use force. But our boy is ready to throw hands, imploring them to go ahead and ducking try. Recalling their first interaction and how he helped her just now, Ryujam believes that he should be the one to take responsibility over her. He tells them that he's the child's manager, even if only for a day. The bowl-cut kid is talking to his boss and learns that he's the one who sent the bodyguards over to take control of the situation in an emergency. But when the kid reports that they weren't expecting to run into Duel's manager, his boss is surprised. Focusing on Rayujam and the bodyguards, they demand immediate verification to prove his connection to the child. Countering their demand for authentication, Rayujam asks the security members to prove a way of trust for him to hand over Doles safely. Internalizing his thoughts, he doesn't trust these guys at all, believing that they have suspicious intentions. One of the security dudes tries to attack him, but Bro eats a kick in the gut and then gets pushed off with a palm strike. With his body on the ground, Rayujam wonders if he went too far. The leader of the team is done acting nicely and signals his team to jump our boy. But this isn't about to be Jujutsu Kaisen, because Rayujam casually beats the ever-living crap out of them with a variety of different strikes until he's the victor. As he's going away from the remaining team, Rayujam senses a feeling that he wasn't ready for. The leader of the security team steps in to take the fight, and finally the girl wakes up at last. She has no memory of the security team members, so he tells her to close her eyes for a second and charges up a powerful attack. Within a flash of a second, the team is flipped over to its head, as they're all knocked out like bowling pins with Rayujam's explosive lunge. The girl is too stunned to speak. Her only reaction is the factual admittance that he's an unbelievably strong human. In the next scene, she's safely returned to her boss, who comes to realize that he made a major mistake by sending the girl alone without anyone to care for. He didn't know this would happen, and was fooled by the company just because it shared a big name. Even though she appears to be fine, it's clear that this situation has clearly affected the girl. Though he assumed it was a good opportunity at first, it could have ended really badly for Dule. Pissed as hell, her boss is in the mood to kill the crap out of the ones who hurt his employee. But his very own employee points out his ridiculous approach. He couldn't just fight against a giant company, and though she wants to expose the bastards for what they did, it's simply unrealistic as they're weak. In this circumstance, no matter how much they raised their voice, they would lose. That's why she didn't want her boss to go on and start a meaningless fight. Instead, she's more than happy to pay them back later in the long run. Instead, she thinks it's more important to thank a certain someone for helping them out. Dragging his ass out to the disinterested Rayujam, she lets the boss take the conversation. Though he wants to compensate our boy, Rayujam really doesn't care about anything other than sweet drinks. The girl has become an immediate fan of this guy for being really good at fighting. She thinks assigning him for the manager's position would be excellent, especially since they've run into each other before. She wonders if the girl he mistook her for is also as pretty as her. Apart from that, the boss is out here interviewing the man and learns that he's practically jobless right now. While Dule is shocked by what he's doing, because in the boss's point of view, both of them look perfect together, so he straight up offers him a job to work as the manager. And well, back in class, Dule gets praise from Seon for having boarded a big production company, not knowing the kind of shit show that went down the other night. Dule speaks about the details and explains that it didn't work out. Feeling dizzy, she draws away and nervously asks for a favor to give her some trade secrets. This kind of private request has Seon a bit on the fence, but thanks to her overly nice personality, she accepts wholeheartedly. She's ready to answer any questions when a group of delinquent bitches comes around pushing them out of the way. This is the Ojanil gang, but thanks to Seon's personal managers, they're scared off from engaging in anything serious. Saiwon believes that getting a manager is crucial for situations like these. Choosing someone reliable is more important than choosing someone strong, as that person should be dependable. The word dependable reminds her of the man she recently became acquainted with. Ryugam is observing the cityscape at night when Eun-hai arrives to serve him. Bro is a bit too harsh on her because he points her out for being late every time. Also, since she's late often, he wonders what kind of personal schedule she has. Eun-hai refuses to talk about that and questions why he called her. Bro just wants to know about the celebrity manager role, something not even this chick knows. Receiving a sharp glare from him, she explains that a typical role of a manger involves checking on the celebrity's condition and taking care of negotiations in their stead. Basically, a caretaker who always looks after them. Now that she's spilled the beans, she wants to know why he asked. Ryugam explains that he's got himself a new job as the manager of Mindyule, which comes as a roaring shock to her, especially when this dude was hard on rejecting her the other day. She even curses him for having a change of heart and suspects that this would happen in the end. Apart from that, he got to know about something interesting from the girl. Back to the emergency team, he reports to his leader about the unordinary man and how became responsible for mission failure. Meanwhile, Ryugam reveals to Eun-hai how he fought a bunch of guys trying to save her life. But from one glance, he could tell that these guys were different. He struck them with chi, and they were still capable of getting back on their feet. Back to the scene of their naked ass boss, Bro chucks a fist so hard that it sends the team's leader into the wall, reminding them that they're also unordinary humans. The fact that they failed this mission is the height of embarrassment. They can't afford to slip up on this mission with how important it is. Ryugam tells Eun-hai that the people of this world shouldn't be used to the concept of chi. This was the present world, a world without any concept of martial arts chi, but he could feel it from those men. Also, the emergency team as boss is now personally curious and wants to meet this mystery man himself. Eunhai's reaction is a wild one after hearing that from him. She wants to know if he's telling the truth or not, while Rayujam doesn't get why she's so upset about this. He wonders if there's something she knows that he doesn't. Eunhai's eyes widened in horror, recalling how Okon told her that internal chi no longer existed. So this means it's impossible, but this only adds even more proof of Okon using her like a tool. Remembering her meeting with the Okon of the present, she learned that the world changed considerably over the 8 centuries they weren't around. The average human body lost one of its core functions. This had now become a world where instead of martial arts, development and technology were advanced. He even admired the power of science, as having lived for only a brief period, he understood that chi was no longer required in such a world. But then that adds on to the mystery of why Eunhai was kept alive for so long. Rayujam goes on to add that he didn't experience simple chi, so his observation is a bit short-sighted at the moment. That's why he wants to investigate those guys first. Bro literally drops off a building in front of her, makes a superhero landing, and Jojo walks his way to uncover the truth in the shadows that is being kept away from him. The following day, we get to see Korea's top school, which is lined with the most exotic cars around. The Yongjin High School is one where the government is personally investing in, and it resembles a university with the various courses and activities it offers. And it just so happens that Dule attends this school, the school of stuck-ups and trust fund babies like the 3 delinquent girls. Unfortunately, unlike the rest of the students, she was someone who merely got in because of luck. She gets bullied for merely existing, and because of her background, they treat her like crap. Even trying to pin Seun against an eyesore like her, Dule snaps back at Sojong. And though she wanted to hit the girl with all her might, she only got even more harassed and provoked by the boys in her class. The entire class is hostile towards her, but she can't do anything to prevent her fate. Apart from that, the students are curious about the transfer student who's going to be joining them today. The teacher comes around and tells them to take their seats. The kids are fully expecting a new girl, knowing their teacher's high standards. But to everyone's astonishment, most importantly Dule's, it's our boy Chok Rayujam, looking dapper in that uniform. Let's go a few steps back and see his meeting with the president. He made a request to join the school and reasoned that his curiosity about this world makes him want to pursue a path of knowledge. The president then goes on to appoint the director of the National Intelligence Service to take care of this request on his behalf. So long as his age wasn't an issue, he could join. And guess what? Our boy's now a part of class, and he's got all the girls simping for him. Even the boys are admiring his good looks, believing that he's a future star or an actor. Janelle puts them aside and introduces himself and compliments the guy's physique. Returning a bone-chilling response, Rayujam shares that he gets the gains by taking the heads, or in other words, slashing people. The funniest thing is that the geeky nerd who told him about Yanwoo many days ago is also a part of this class. And that kid is practically shivering here. Janelle laughs in Rayujam's face for acting like some kind of anime character. The wimpy kid is out here quivering though, afraid that this guy might go hyper and destroy the whole school. Rayujam funnily glances at him, and also sees Dule gesturing to him to come outside of class for a talk. So he goes there, and gets a hearing from the girl for attending the school. She can't believe he easily made his way in and wants to know more about his identity. However, before coming to this school, Rayujam was strictly prohibited from revealing his identity. My boy was media trained for situations like these before entering the school, so he shares the answer he was told to give, stating that he joined through a special admission. At the same time, he's her manager, which is a similar job to Bodyguard. Knowing that those dangerous men are gunning for her, he wants to be near her and protect the celebrity. However, she's a bit put off and reminds him not to do that kind of stuff during school, as both of them will get in trouble for it. She thinks it's better to act like total strangers in the school, and she shies away from reality, because she wasn't really a celebrity just yet. The chick is out here getting swooned, but her man is like Batman and vanishes in an instant. Let's cut to a different scene, where one of the nerdy kids is getting bullied for his lunch money. You know, the typical bully situation. Anyway, this kid is relentless and doesn't want to hand over the money, so he eats a really painful hook in the gut for disobeying orders, knocking the daylights out of him. Janelle's tyrannical control over his class causes the rest of them to shiver in fear. Walking his way here, our boy wonders what's going on. The reason he disappeared in an instant was because he felt a trace of chi coming from nearby. Janelle's got the kid on his knees collecting the money. The wimpy kid explains that Janelle has a policy of collecting taxes from everyone. He treats this as his playground and is allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants because he's got a strong family background. The easiest way to describe him would be king. And as you can guess, the word king is quite the trigger for our boy, who is genuinely disgusted at the pathetic weakling of a sight that Janelle is, despite being the king. but his bold words just now were heard by Jinil and the rest of his goons. Of course, Rayujam, being the polite gentleman that he is, apologized for upsetting the king. Jinil thinks he's threatening to rise up in the hierarchy in the class ladder. His goon thinks he's more than enough to handle a guy like Rayujam. But Jinil is personally pissed and straight up pushes the guy away, showing his jaw, asking for a clean hit on the fist. Yeah, famous last words right here. Rayujam sincerely asks if he's ready to die, which may seem like an exaggeration to others, but this guy really means it. Pissed that he's still showing off, Jinil prepares a punch to hit our boy. The wimpy kid can't believe that they're going at it already on the first day of his transfer. Suddenly, the teacher comes chiming in, ruining Jinil's fun as he was about to start a fight. He's told to keep these matters outside of school. Jinil reminds Rayujam that he's going to make his life miserable from now on, which is such an empty threat coming from a coward like him. Bro is out here acting like he's going to destroy Rayujam. Meanwhile, our boy is looking at him in confusion. That day, during lunch break, Rayujam requests to sit with a group of students. But to his surprise, they all leave the table out of fear, probably because they don't want to be associated with him out of fear of Jinil. Since no one wants to sit with him, the wimpy kid requests to share the table instead. So they talk and eat a meal together. Our boy is a bit surprised why everyone's afraid of him. The wimpy kid reveals that he's basically marked from now on by Jinil and his goons, which means his school life is about to be hard as hell. This guy tortures people until they're forced to leave school. And that's the reason they're all ignoring him. However, the kid also doesn't know why Rayujam didn't beat the daylights out of Jinil, knowing that he could have. Also, he wants to make something clear about the first time they met. He could already tell that the dude was strange, so he amusingly asks if our boy is some kind of superhuman from a different time, which is scary at how accurate the kid's prediction is. Anyway, the teacher roars at the new transfer student, intending to share a conversation with him. They go to a separate room, with the teacher asking him trivial questions about the school experience. Rayujam responds that he doesn't find the teachers helpful or to his liking, since they don't exactly uphold high morals like they used to. Of course, our boy knows exactly what's going on here and why the teacher brought him here, so he tells Unhai to drop the act. Our favorite baddie returns to her normal face and becomes shocked to learn about traces of chi from the school. Unfortunately, neither of them can conclude who the chi belongs to. That's why our boy intentionally tried to cause a scene, attempting to force someone to use chi in that situation. It was a good opportunity that was ruined because of the teacher. But apart from that, he's confirmed one other thing, and it's that martial chi still exists in this world. Also, Jinil is currently beating the wimpy kid, which is only going to make it all the more satisfying when our boy beats him black and blue. The kid is told to strip his shirt and strike him back. The kid hits softly across his shoulder, looking traumatized as ever. Jinil points out Junho's terrified face and delivers a crushing swipe, rocking his body. The goons are watching their leader fiddle around with his new pet. Also, they recall seeing Rayujam at the cafeteria speaking to Junho, which is why he's being punished for it. With the rate it's going, Junho's destined to take off his pants. But then, the glasses boy from before swoops in to stop him. He's the class president, and he's decided to take action after sharing a meeting with Duel, who was disappointed in him for taking a knee to the bullies. That meeting returned some of his resolve. The only reason the class president stayed silent up until now was because he wanted to maintain a peaceful life for his future. But now he's done staying silent. Bro literally goes Superman against Jinil and is about to destroy him when Rayujam appears out of nowhere to block the attack. With this, he's confirmed something. Rayujam then goes on to verbally murder Jinil's existence by saying that he's not a king but a bastard with the way he's handling things. This provocation causes Jinil's men to sweep in and attack the transfer student. Recalling his meeting with the president, he was strictly told not to cause any trouble. That was his promise, and that's why he doesn't do anything except stand in one place. Recalling his conversation from Junho, he asked the kid why he associated himself with a troublemaker who was marked. The kid responded with a timeless proverb, that the strong always protect the weak. He always viewed Rayujam as a strong person physically, but in a way, the transfer student was weak when it came to adapting to the school. Okay, the really beautiful part about this sequence is how even the weak-looking kid is situationally strong from the perspective of the school, and he's helping Rayujam, who is having difficulty adapting. I love the way the author handled that. Let's go back to the fight. Jinil's underling ended up hurting his own hand after trying to hit our boy, and then he kissed the floor as our boy flipped him over. Rayujam reflects that his original old self is also weak in some ways. The kids are shocked seeing this dude knock out two guys in an instant. Turning his attention to the cowardly Jinil, he questions if the king is ready to put on his best performance. Tension building up in his body, the psychopath Jinil goes batshit crazy as he swoops in for his punch. The funny thing is, that stupid performance didn't matter, because all Rayujam did in response was use a forehead flick to send this dude flying into the next world. Bro is so bored he doesn't even look at him while doing that, and calls Jinil pathetic on top of that. A verbal and a physical beatdown in one. Janil's forehead has birthed an egg as he rests defeated on the ground. Rayujam is bored and thinks that Janil is clearly unworthy of the title of king. Instead, the class president is more of a worthy contender. Recalling the punch he stopped earlier, Rayujam understands that this guy is trying to restrain his powers to an unfathomable level. Park Minguk is the target they were looking for, the one leaking traces of martial chi. Lashing out strongly against the new transfer student, Minguk questions what he's hiding. Neither of the students can interpret their conversations. But from the looks of it, Rayujam has caused trouble. Seeing the mess, Duel arrives to see Janil and his goons down for the count. She doesn't know what's going on and sees the class president having a chat with him. Our boy looks around to meet her gaze and merely walks past. In the next scene after class, Seun and Dula discuss how fascinating it is for a guy like him to attend this school. But they're happy that with a guy like him around, their safety is guaranteed. Janil now looks like a chump, but this dude is still not done and wants to take control of his world again. Seun remarks that in some way Rayujam appears different. It's as if he's got this natural pull of safety, compelling a person to come near. Turns out this chick has the hots for him and wants to get closer to him, not knowing that Rayujam's actually her manager. Well, since she doesn't have a choice in this situation, our girl confesses the truth, which rocks Seun's world, and she promises to keep her secret. Dul is glad that she told her this information early on. Also, it's clear that her new manager doesn't have any work experience, and neither does the aspiring celebrity, so it's a match made in heaven. Seun admits that at least Rayujam looks more reliable than any manager she has on her side. As for our boy, he's recalling the discussion he shared with the class president. Minguk refused to answer any questions until our boy brought up Qigong. Minguk didn't know what he was talking about at all. This confirmed one thing, and it was that not even Minguk knew about his strength. He was basically swinging a fist like normal, not knowing he had so much power behind him. Minguk began getting tensed up from the strange accusations, and that's how their conversation cut off. Rayujam vividly recalls his energy from the punch, appearing familiar to him in some ways. Anyway, Rayujam is getting disciplined for causing so much trouble on his first day. They want to call over his guardian and put him in trouble for it. In response, the fearless student simply calls the instructor a shameful man. And right away, the so-called guardians step foot inside the school, which are revealed to be the director of the National Intelligence Service and his men. Imagine having the damn director as your representative for the school meeting. Bro must be feeling unstoppable. Anyway, since the school is sponsored by the government, they're pretty disappointed with the way they've handled things here. He also tells Rayujam to leave the rest to him, which only sparks the instructor's curiosity even more. And with that, the issue is resolved. In the next scene, we get to see our favorite baddie again. She brought Rayujam what he asked for. It's a file of all the records on Minguk, including his every information. From her particular findings, she noticed that he's an ordinary kid if anything. Minguk simply has a strong passion for school, or so it appears. Also, the Qigong couldn't have been inherited from his family members either, since the kid doesn't even have parents, only an older brother. The investigation is tougher than he thought it would be, so he wonders if the class president shares a connection to the security team members. This also confirms the extinction of Qigong in this era, although not entirely. Though he's tried searching for good evidence, he doesn't get what they're hiding that's so important. Minguk returns home and finds his brother, who asks if something happened during school. But ignoring him completely, the kid keeps on moving forward. Finally, he speaks and tells his brother that he noticed someone at school using a similar power as them. Though the guy is a transfer student, he destroyed the school bullies using the same power. And also, he has knowledge of their power too, even though Minguk pretended not to know. Minguk's brother asks to describe his appearance, so he vividly chalks down Rayujam's physicality, boasting long hair and a tall physique. To Minguk's shock, his brother disappears before his eyes. He goes on to report to his boss that he's found the guy they were looking for, and funnily enough, they've discovered he's a high schooler. The boss found himself initially upset because of what happened, and their mission failed because Minguk's brother wasn't around to make sure they succeeded. So to make sure they don't fail this time around, Section Chief Kim is assigned with an obvious job, a job that he's been meaning to do. Lo and behold, this is Park Dae-han, the same guy who whacked his security team for losing a fight to our boy. Having taken control of the place, Rayujam returns all the money that Janil took from the student as part of the class tax. As for the humiliated so-called king, Janil is actually wondering if this dude is supported by the president to be acting so fearlessly. Also, it basically means Rayujam is the new school's king. They all talk about how kind he is despite his appearance. After class, Junho is impressed that with his existence alone, he was able to return the school to a place of sanctity. Hunyo is happy to assist him with any inquiries about his school life from now on. But Rayujam sees Minguk just up ahead and expresses that he'll find his answers from him instead. Minguk explains the process of sorting and wasting trash. Rayujam thinks it's a needless game while the class president is questioning the identity of the mysterious transfer student, especially since his brother disappeared in a flash after that meeting. Mingguk suspects that he may be trying to get close to him, but to his shock, Rayujam expresses that he's fine with learning the rest on his own. Also, he makes it sound like they're about to have a fight here and now. Mingguk is high on alert, and the moment our boy grabs his shoulder, he's about to attack. But then he realizes that it's actually Dula who came to catch up with them. She's also pretty suspicious of their secret conversations lately. Anyway, they explain how Mingguk was teaching how to sort stuff. Dul points out that it's funny how all three of them are special admission students. She thinks it's a good idea for the two of them to befriend each other since they don't have anyone else to rely on. The scene cuts to Rayujam and Dula sharing a chat with the company's boss. They were called on sudden notice to reveal a shocking opportunity. Bro looks at them with the face of utter dread like he's about to die, and explains that they've been tasked with work. A junior that he knows is making her own web drama, and because it requires a student role, it fits Dul perfectly. Unfortunately, the place is a bit far from here, so her manager is gonna have to drive. But of course, our boy doesn't know how to. He's handed the keys, but he's got no idea how it works. The clueless Rayujam actually thinks they're gonna ride the key, which is pretty fucking hilarious to me. She tells her boss that he's an unordinary guy in their school, and that seems to be a bad thing apparently, because they haven't signed a proper contract to get him for the role of manager. Dul recommends they depart right away, so their boss allows them access to his card, allowing them to take care of their expenses. But this girl, Dul, is out here having the time of her life, ignoring her boss's warning of spending little. She reminds Rayujam that he can't exactly say shit to her after eating 5 breads on his own. Switching topics, he points out that she's close with Mingguk, which is true because they're both special admission students who knew each other from first grade. Special admission is supposed to be a term for students who struggled financially to get in. Though it's a privilege to enter the school, it promised them a life of hell. The class president is a resilient man, however, and he's influenced by his brother who works in security. But Dooley's a bit upset that he's asking about the other guy, and not her. Rayujam turns his face acting like he's asleep, when in reality he's deeply focusing on the word security. Arriving at the site of the production, Rayujam learns that Dula doesn't really want him to follow her around because it will attract way too much attention. Instead, she tells him to go and rest in the bus of the filming crew. And that's what he does, sitting patiently, gathering his thoughts on the security people he fought back then, which means Mingguk definitely lied to him. And his brother Daehan is a suspicious figure too. And well, guess what happens? The same group of suits-wearing clowns turn up to meet him on the bus. Our boy is happy that he's gonna get a chance to encounter Daehan today. Rayujam expresses that he's not gonna destroy them if they simply answer some of his questions. Starting with the first one, which is him asking about their main target. Since they're quiet on that, he asks a second question, inquiring about the man known as Park Daehan. The one in charge of the team leaps right in to beat Rayujam. Though he unloads a punch, his fist is casually grabbed without our boy even needing to stand up. The guy just blocked the attack with ease, but that's exactly what his opponent was waiting for, as he exerts insane amounts of chi and unleashing a high-level attack in a cramped space. Even his underlings think that this will kill Rayujam, as the security team's leader tries to whip another punch, only to get ragdolled to the side of his face and seated unconscious. Rayujam has equipped himself with a rather useful weapon, believing that it should be a better weapon than his fist. The rest of the guys are out here taking off their jackets like that's gonna do something. The first one rushes to attack, while Rayujam observes that their qigong shows itself in response to certain triggers. He's out here beating them up while also collecting his thoughts, comparing them to Mingguk's situation. However, compared to the qigong he experienced in the past era, this one seems like a cheap copy without any merit. That's why he's casually destroying these chumps without breaking a sweat. And with all of the men defeated, Bro casually sets them on their seats, making it seem like they were sleeping. Though he observed them to be weak in their qigong, the same isn't the case for the guy approaching the bus. Rayujam gets out of the bus to confront the man wearing a sleek black suit. Daehan is seriously unimpressed that his team was annihilated in under a minute. Rayujam directly confirms the identity of Park Daehan. And get ready for the plot twist, our boy himself reveals that he's an ancestor of their family. Hearing the word ancestor coming from his target's mouth, Daehan can't help but let out a loud chuckle. He thinks it's a ridiculous answer while our boy tells him that he actually knows about his little brother, Mingguk. That name alone causes Daehan to whip a damn pipe across our boy's head, and only then he asked about Rayujam's identity. Luckily, Rayujam caught the pipe and wonders if Daehan's really that curious to find that out since they both have the same goals here. Deciding to continue this fight in another location, they move to an isolated park. Getting comfortable, Daehan is serious with how much chi he is releasing. Right now he's looking for answers, but those answers will only come if and only if Rayujam is defeated. Since they're both curious, the winner takes all and the loser will have to oblige. Daehan is done being treated around without respect and lunges to attack him. The attack connects and pushes Rayujam back considerably. Daehan is rather impressed that his inhuman speed was countered against an enemy like this, so much so that he actually praises Rayujam's capability. But this fight isn't over just yet, as Daehan meticulously uses the walls as a ramp to descend with a powerful aerial kick. Daehan notices that his opponent is reading his movements like a book, so it causes him concern if he's truly up against a force of nature. Though his identity remains a mystery, Daehan is smart enough to deem Rayujam's capabilities perhaps higher than even his own. Realizing that he's got no choice but to fully harness the powers of his Qigong, he takes a stance that astonishes our boy. It's the Silent Tiger Fist, and this attack generates immense pressure even after being blocked by Rayujam. Following up with a second lunge, Daehan blitzes his opponent in his wrathful fury and attempts to land the third strike. Even though Rayujam dodges this attack, the pressure literally destroys a bunch of trees in the park. Going for the fourth sequence of the strike, he tries to overwhelm Rayujam with a definitive final strike. But to Daehan's shock, his opponent is nowhere to be found. The Silent Tiger Fist is actually an attack that requires a mandatory element to complete it, and Rayujam displays that element of complete silence, masking his presence like a quiet predator ready to annihilate his prey from his blind spot. He criticizes Daehan's inefficient handling of Qigong and shows that he could have ended Daehan in an instant. The first sequence alone from Rayujam is enough to knock Daehan so far back that the earth ruptures in response to the pressure. It was clear that day that their skills were far apart. Rayujam goes on to reveal that he didn't even use the full strike sequence. In the next scene, Dul is surprised that they're getting a private escort vehicle instead of a bus on their way back. The girl has no idea what she missed. The following morning, our boy slaps the crap out of Daehan to wake him up. They're back in the brothers' home anyway, but Mingguk doesn't seem to be around. Daehan doesn't even remember getting blacked out, but as an honorable man, he's ready to uphold his promise of stating any desired information. Rayujam explains that he's confirmed a bunch of facts on his own already, the first being that Daehan's body lacks Qigong inherently. This made him wonder how a person like him could manifest its powers, until he found a little something in their house. They were a bunch of pills. Their shapes are different from the ones used in the past, but their application is the same. Its purpose is to implant Qigong inside a person.